Hey guys, welcome to my channel. My name is Chantelli, and I'd like to thank you for clicking on this video. Today what I'm going to be talking about, my video idea this week was kind of, I wanted to let people know, like, some of the things that, they could maybe do to help out with the drug epidemic, but I feel like it kind of turned into something a little bit different, and I want to start off the video with reading something that I had saw a post that somebody made on Facebook, and that post said, if you're not willing to get sober, don't tell me you love your children. And that post, I made a reply saying, it's statements like these that make it hard and make it for people to come forward and ask for help, right? Because addiction and love are two different things, okay? That doesn't mean that. Just because you can't get sober or whatever, that doesn't mean that you don't love your kids. Like, it just doesn't mean that. So, in my response, like I said, what I said was, statements like these are judgmental. They make people afraid to come forward and ask for help. So this girl replied to me. So, people are just supposed to stay so supportive, so understanding, while the addict just keeps hurting others over and over again because they feel guilty for their actions, and the sober person has no right to judge but often has to clean up the mess over and over again. And let's be real, an addict doesn't get clean until 1, they get in trouble. That's not necessarily true. Or 2, they find whatever it is that they love more than their addiction. That's also not true. What about all the pain the addict inflicted? Oh, you can't judge them because they're sad? Fuck out of here. That was the reply I got. And that just showed my whole point of the fact that this person is obviously very judgmental, and they must think that they're better than everyone else and that they're allowed to judge people. I mean, I guess they think they're God. I don't know, man. Yeah, actually, no, you're not supposed to judge. You know why? Because you're not God. You know why? Because you don't have a law degree, and you're not sitting behind a judge's table stating that you're allowed to judge. So therefore, no, you're not supposed to judge. You're supposed to show compassion. Okay? People need compassion, alright? Okay, enough with that. Anyhow, so I just wanted to read that just so you guys can see that this stigma is still very real. So, I guess, I don't know, I feel like this video might be kind of all over the place a little bit because I don't really write myself a script out. I just kind of write down, like, bulletin points of things that I want to talk about. So, anyhow, we need to get rid of this stigma, this toxic stigma against addiction. It needs to go away. This is ridiculous because it's not helping anybody. It's not fair. It isn't. It is unfair to have this stigma against a mental illness. When people feel discriminated against, when they come forward to ask for help, they are made to feel as though they are just junkies or fiends, just looking for the next fix or whatever. And that's not fair either. Destigmatizing drug use will allow for more people to ask for help. And the thing about drug use is actually it is normal. It has been a normal part of life in many cultures and time periods over history looking back. So this isn't like an abnormal thing. It really isn't. I kind of wanted to point Portugal out in this video because they have had a significant drop in HIV drug-related infections due to the decriminalization of drugs. And there are some clean needle exchanges here in the US, although that number did drop slightly throughout the pandemic. So we are kind of headed in the right direction, but we're just not quite there. I mean, more so with like professionals, but like the overall society in general still holds this very, very high, like, stigma against people that suffer from addiction, and it's so sad. Um, Back in 2019, there were 50,000 deaths from opiate-involved overdoses. The epidemic is affecting public health and social and economic welfare. And also, the current economic burden of the opiate epidemic is $78.5 billion, and that is annually. And that includes healthcare costs, lost productivity, addiction treatment, and criminal justice involvement. So, and that's just from the opiates. That's just from the opiate epidemic. There are other addicting drugs out there that cost taxpayers more and more money. Within communities, you can start conversations about the drug epidemic. Talk to people, share your stories, get your stories out there. If you have been personally affected by the epidemic, it doesn't have to be that you suffer from substance use disorder yourself, but if you know somebody, like, to get your story out there. It's important that we share our stories. We need to humanize this disorder. That's the only way people are going to start realizing that this stigma is ridiculous and it needs to be gone. And this one's for doctors and healthcare professionals. Don't turn patients away from treatment. And if you're unable to treat them, send them to somebody who can. Okay? Because for me personally, I was turned away. Back in 2017, I went to get help. And I told them. I went to the ER. I went to a local place that they have mental health and substance use treatment. So I went to this ER, which is what you're supposed to do if you need help, to get help. And I told them I was suicidal. I told them why I was suicidal. And I told them that I needed help with my drug addiction. I could not live like this anymore. And they turned me away. They sent me home. And you know what I did? I went and walked around the streets looking for crack. Luckily, I didn't find any. And then after that, I wish my aunt had taken a picture of me so I could tell you where I was then to where I'm at now. But I was laying on the side of the street, just by an exit, just waiting for her to pick me up, just like laid out like on my purse like this on the side of the road. Like, I kind of wish I had a picture of that. I have it pictured in my mind, but like, I just knew that this is not what I want my life to be. So, you know what? I felt desperate. I did. So I went home and I swallowed a whole bottle of pills. And luckily, I did wake up the next morning. And I was like, you know what? God doesn't want me to die. God wants me to heal myself and to get better. And I decided, if nobody's going to help me, I'm going to do it on my own. And you know what? It wasn't going to work. It wasn't going to happen on my own, because I ended up that day having, my jaw had locked up. Like, I couldn't even talk. My body was making these like seizure type movements, and like, it was crazy. Like, I was scared. Like, I wasn't on anything. I was like, I'm just going to quit cold turkey. So I wasn't using anything, but I was like scared. Like, I never felt like that before. So I called 911. I could barely get out on the phone what the problem was or what I was dealing with. I could barely get that out on the phone. I could hardly explain it to the operator, because because of my jaw that was locked. So I just could not explain to them what was going on. So the ambulance, they showed up though, and they just didn't believe. They thought that I was on something, which was the opposite. I wasn't on anything. It was withdrawals causing that, because withdrawals can be very severe. They can actually kill you. So that's why it's important to get help when you want to get clean. because you can die just from the withdrawals. Anyhow, they picked me up and they were like, "What'd you take, Chantelly? We know you took something." And I kept shaking my head, "No, no, no." But my jaw was locked. I could not talk. I could not get anything out. So they take me to the ER. I had a full-blown seizure at the ER. And this was a different ER. This wasn't the one that I went to the night before. This was a different one. Luckily, I will say that once they gave me the medication to calm down the seizures and all that, like the lockjaw just went away. I was able to explain to them the situation that, no, dude, I was not on any drugs. I was actually quitting drugs. I was determined to do it no matter what. And it was so hard. Those people were so nice to me there. They were not judgmental at all. They completely understood. And they sent me downstate to get help. And that was the worst, like, ever. Like, I laid in my hospital bed when I was down there for probably 2 days straight, dude. Just holding on to the side of the bed rails, looking up at the ceiling. Couldn't do anything. I mean, that's how bad the withdrawals were. They were so bad. And I wasn't even using, like, that much, like, hardcore drugs. Like, I was using a little bit of Suboxone that I was getting off the street to help with my opiate addiction. That was the thing that I was addicted to. I was only using a little tiny bit every day to get me through the day. Like, and because that's how severe opiate addiction is. It's you basically need it or you can't get through the day. I mean, that's how bad it can be. So anyways, I had gotten down there and yeah, I ended up getting, you know, the right help. I stayed there for a week. Alright guys, sorry about that. You know, my camera. Okay, back to where I was though. So anyhow, I ended up, I came back here. I did do the Suboxone program, so I had to drive down there once a week for about a month and a half until I got into a treatment place around here. And that's the treatment center I've been in for the last 4 years. And I will say that, hold on for a second. Come on, buddy. Alright, I'm sorry about that. My dog wanted in. I felt bad. I had to let him in. Simba, come here, baby. You want to say hi? Come say hi. Say hi. Say hi. This is Simba, everybody. This is my baby. This is my little sweetie pie. I just love him so much. I do. Okay. But, so anyhow, so yeah. So I've been to this. I got into the place that I'm at now, and I will say that they have been so good to me there. It has been every other place that I went to for treatment in the past, I felt judged. I really did. And they make you feel judged. Like, it's just not right. So my point was basically don't turn patients away. If you can't treat them, send them somewhere that can. Send them to somebody that can. And when I went to that second ER, they couldn't treat me there, but yeah, they sent me downstate. So they at least didn't send me home to go and kill myself. I mean, you know, but preventing drug use in the first place, we need more mental health treatment, and we also need more trauma-informed care over just locking users up in jail, because what does that solve? That solves absolutely nothing. We need to have more accessibility for treatment. You could become an advocate for the drug epidemic. Share resources on social media. And educate yourself on the disorder. So that way, you know, you realize the stigma is just like a made up, like, ridiculous thing. That society likes to be judgmental and point their fingers at people for having a disorder that they don't want. Like, nobody wants this. Nobody wants to be an addict. Nobody asks to be an addict. Nobody. Not one person is asked. And the thing about addiction is every case is different. Not everybody like me, I was sexually abused for 5 years out of my childhood. And so, I mean, and also, like, when I was coming to terms with all of that, my very, very best friend that I had back in high school just literally ditched me. Like, just ditched me. Because I wore black lipstick and fishnets, and I guess she thought I was on drugs. I don't know, but I was not on drugs. I wasn't even on, like, I was straight edge back in high school. Like, I wanted nothing to do with drugs. But, and so I went through all of that stuff, and I was self-harming, which I had talked about in a previous video. And it wasn't until actually after high school that I found drugs, and that, I mean, and it didn't hurt like the self-harming did. So the stigma is just, I don't know. Oh, my point that I was saying is that not everybody is like me, that they have all this trauma they've been through, that they're trying to cover up and numb that pain. That's for me, that's my story, but everybody's story is different. And let me tell you this. Addiction doesn't know gender, race, or which economic class you live in. It doesn't care. Okay? Substance use disorder does not care who you are, where you're from, what gender you are, what race you are, how much money you make. It doesn't matter. None of that stuff matters. Anybody can get the disorder. Anybody can. This stigma goes way back. It goes back to the 1800s, where opiate addicts were said in the press to be mostly people of color, consisting of African Americans or Chinese immigrants, when just as many, if not more, white people were addicted as well. So we all know how the racism was back then, and how it still is today. Not as bad, but it still exists. In the early 1900s, alcoholics were described as moral inferiors, and their children were even considered to be born criminals. I mean, before they even had the chance to know what right from wrong even is. Like, seriously? That's ridiculous. Back in 1914, the Harrison Anti-Narcotic Act was passed, criminalizing addicts and prescribing physicians. In the late 1950s and early 60s, therapeutic communities that were to treat substance use disorder, the applicants were required to sit for hours before their intake exams, in which during that exam, they would have to state that they were stupid. Like, come on. Like, that's, I don't know. Let's see. And due to zero tolerance policies like the 1970s war on drugs, society then began to focus on criminalization as a solution to substance use disorder over actual treatment, which is what people need. And as a result of this, incarceration as well as substance use rates have skyrocketed in the last few decades. We get back to the beginning of the video and me, kind of just that whole little Facebook scenario. It shows you that this stigma is still very real today, even with the proven fact that it is a mental illness. People need to educate themselves on this disorder. The stigma, it causes way more harm for the sufferer. And, that's, this whole thing needs to stop. It does. It needs to stop. The stigma needs to stop. So please, guys, share your stories. We need to humanize people that have this disorder. And as far as you judgmental people that want to point your fingers and say things like, oh, just because somebody isn't sober, they don't love their children, that is far from the truth. I'll tell you right now, I love my kids more than anything. I love them more than life itself. I love them more than all the stars and all the universes. My two sons mean absolutely more to me than anything in this life. but I still suffer from this disorder. And it's because I care for them so much, and I have felt ashamed to be open about my story because of them, you know? But they're aware of my substance use. They're aware of my substance use disorder and my mental illnesses that I have. Obviously I hid it from them when they were younger, but as they got older, I was honest with them. I don't know. I believe in being honest with your kids. I don't believe in hiding things from them. I don't think that helps them. You know, and it doesn't help your relationship with them. In the long run, they're going to find out anyway, so I've always been really open about it with them. And so that's why I do feel comfortable now. They're both a little bit older. They're 12 and 18. They'll be 13 and 19 here in a few months. So I feel more comfortable to be open. And they know that I'm doing the videos. And they both are okay with it. It wasn't until I got their okay that I started to do these videos. Because I wanted to make sure they were okay with me doing this. And they're both okay with it. So that's good. But I do feel like this video is getting a little bit long here. Hopefully I said everything I need to say. I'm going to try to rewatch it all over. If I feel like I need to add something, I'll just add a little third video to the end or something. I appreciate you guys watching. And remember, share your stories. Educate yourself. Remember, this is a mental illness and people need compassion. They don't need to be judged. They don't need their fingers to be pointed at them. They just need help. And they need to feel safe to ask for that help, because a lot of people don't, you know, like, I feared for so long to ask for help, because I didn't want my children to be taken from me, like, I love them so much, like, even though I didn't use stuff right in front of them or anything like that, I mean, I did hide it in that sense, like, they didn't see me do it, but, I don't know. Anyways, alright guys, thanks for clicking on the video. I hope you guys have an awesome day, and just reach out a helping hand to somebody if you think they need it. Alright guys, bye.